site-specific relief, meaning that they could go to a place where they just want to go, that could be extremely detrimental to the township, at least in the eyes of the board and the citizens. And essentially, the board's hands are tied if the court would find that that's an appropriate, or it is an exclusionary ordinance. So that's why everyone's very careful to find some legitimate spot to put all these different uses so that you don't run into that type of challenge.
And if lost, then we would not have the ability then to put any further conditions on it. They can
Basically,
basically,
run that risk of losing that control over the process, which is a great exposure for the residents.
the second question is probably more for the engineer, talking about the ancillary items, the pipelines, the well pads and everything. Where is that covered in the ordinances? And how is that governed, and how is that being understood?
Mr. Jorgensen, we actually, we include processing plants and compressor stations under the general definition of oil and gas development. And the unconventional oil and gas development items being the wellheads, natural gas compressor stations, the processing plants, would also be limited to those same two zoning districts, currently under the current version of the ordinance.
And then the last one is back to legal. There's a number of provisions in there where we say if possible, where feasible. The thought process on some of that language, why we chose that language for.
You know, it's probably on a case, giving ourselves flexibility on a case-by-case basis, almost the same concept as conditional use. There may be situations where it doesn't make sense, and to have a requirement that essentially might not be for in anyone's benefit, did not seem to make, having a hard and fast requirement didn't seem to make sense. Otherwise you could essentially have an applicant seeking a variance for the zoning hearing board if, say, the topography or there's some property characteristics that would not allow them to meet that particular criteria, creating an extra step when in fact the township may look at it and say, in this case it doesn't make sense. So we tried to allow a little bit of flexibility there for the township to say, all right, well, this is a situation where that doesn't make sense, but we still kind of retain the ability to protect the health, safety, and welfare to the extent feasible.
And we can put, if needed, we can put conditions to help cover that and make it stronger.
Correct. On the approval, again, you have quite a bit of latitude for requiring additional health, safety, and welfare conditions as part of your approval should you go that far.
Okay. Just a couple of thoughts. Number one, I appreciate the outpouring of comments that the residents have given. I think that we've shown time and time again that we do listen, we do hear, we do take all those things into consideration. I would agree with the fellow supervisors that you gave us some additional information tonight, that we would table this for a month to review that information, but it's time to land the plane. And I would say that next month that we would have a vote on it, either amended or pass as is. In the interim period, one of the other things that I think would be worthwhile for the engineer maybe and Jeff to take a look at, if you look at the existing ordinance map, and the current Miller well pad is located very close to the residential estates. And the 7 wells up there go out in a mile in many directions, not all directions, but in many directions. And so the reality of another well site being built within 2 miles of that site would be the closest that you want to build that, which basically wipes out 3/4 of the residential estates. It wipes out most of the industrial area. There's maybe one possible area. So even beyond the words of the ordinance, this is a very restrictive, but not exclusionary, because we do provide it in areas that you could drill, but the practicality of it because of the distance they do the horizontal wells. For those who don't know, the well site up in Miller went down 6,500 feet.
You just, a little bit over a mile.
Yeah, a bit, it goes down 6,500 feet. It starts with a 2-foot hole, is the vertical shaft. And they go every 5 to 6 inches, they go cement, metal casing, cement, metal casing, cement, metal casing, all the way down to a 5-inch pipe. So it's a sizable undertaking to prevent the leaks. I think it's worth noting too, that we now have 3 Marcellus wells within the area. We have one at Deer Lakes Park, we have one out in Fraser Township out by Pittsburgh Mills, and we have one at Miller. And there has not been an incident at any of these wells that I'm aware of, and we have checked. And so I think that we have made some huge strides. And we want 5, 6, no, we don't want a lot of drilling here. But we also don't want to put the township at risk by making it so exclusionary that we get challenged, and if by chance you lose, then we've lost control over the health and safety in a lot of areas. So those are the challenges that we weigh. And I think, Dan, you had said earlier, if you take a look at the industrial area, which is right along Indianola, no, 910. Not only is it real close to Indianola, it's closer to our schools, it's closer to our playgrounds, and the stream that many residents and non-residents go every spring for fish, trout fishing. It goes right through the heart of it. Now that's a really nice natural asset that we have there. In addition to that, not only do these horizontal wells go out a mile, but before they can even think about putting another one 2 miles away, they have to get everybody's permission for the ground that they're going under. So there's a lot of, I believe anyway, some built-in restrictions here. We have heard you, we have listened, and I think that we've incorporated a lot of those things. What you didn't hear tonight, just so that we can put it all on the table, and I've heard over the weekend, is from the residents who now, on a monthly basis, the first checks came last week, people are starting to get royalties off of this well. And they're not going to be here necessarily. I asked them, but they said, nah, they're not gonna come. But we have Indiana Township residents right now benefiting from that as well. So there are people who don't necessarily speak up, who we hear as well, that you may not hear. So would it be possible, Dan, to take a look at this map and to your best ability to say, here would be the potential possible sites
Yes.
during the next 30 days?
And just to add on to what was said here is that my job is to look at the application of the ordinance, is to see how it would apply it if an application were to come in. And when you start looking at what's left, after you start cutting away the setbacks, what they're already putting their collector lines out, I think we've met what the solicitor's trying to achieve by not having exclusionary zoning, but the spots that are left are very few. And it just so happens that probably the only site that's left happens to be in an industrial district over the Rural Ridge area. So from an application standpoint, I think, we've met the intent of what everybody said here this evening from an engineering point of view, just by excluding where we could actually end up putting a well if one were left. So I'd encourage everybody to get a copy of the zoning map.
It is available on our township website.
And take a look at the setbacks from a property line. And when you start boxing out the 200 foot from a property line, and you take a look at the collector lines that go out from the one existing, and probably only well you're ever going to see in Indiana Township, the spots that are left over are right dab step next to West Deer Township, or in a light industrial area. So in essence, there is no more drilling in the township.
Well, if I could just add a couple of things, that when Gavin and I looked at the map, we felt that just industrial property was only representing 7% of the township, which in the solicitor's opinion could become exclusionary. That's why the residential estate was added in, because we can't take a district and split it. We have to, it's all or nothing. So we looked at residential estate being approximately 23%. So today, as it stands, a company can come in and drill in 95% of the township, excluding BR and TR. Now, with the ordinance, the way it's drafted, we're down to like 30% of the township with the industrial and the rural estate. So be careful what you wish for. If we're trying to worry about an applicant coming in and saying, well, they only have a third of the residential estate, let them figure out and do their homework. We're providing property. We're providing industrial and rural estate. Let them figure it out from there. We shouldn't have to do that, because you might not like the answer that you come up with if you're going to try to worry about, well, now we just took 2/3 of the residential estate. We may be back into MDR. We don't want that. We're trying to eliminate it. So I think right now we're on a good path. So that's just my opinion. We did look at that very tightly.
So I'd be in favor of tabling this to do some further, to review the material we got this evening and then hold a vote.
Is that a motion? Yeah, is that a motion?
I'll make it a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to table this pending ordinance until next month. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. In the meantime, it's my understanding that the supervisors will provide to the township manager any comments that they have regarding proposed changes. In agreement about that?
Yes.
Within 2 weeks. The irony, and I'm explaining this to people in the audience, we usually don't have an audience to explain things to. The irony of it is, it would be great if all the supervisors who have the will and the authority to make changes could all sit down together, the engineer, the township manager, the solicitor, and debate, what should we do? Are we in agreement, and can we pass something? Unfortunately, we're not allowed to. It's against the law to have basically a secret meeting. It's not a public meeting. That's why we do it the way we do. But it is very inefficient. You know, I'll submit a comment. Someone else will say it should be 200 feet. No, it should be 400. Eventually, it all bubbles up, surfaces, and becomes public. But it is a slow, painful process, and has explained some of the delays. We've started this thing over a year, and we're still not there. But the object is stated very well by Paul tonight, is to come up with something that's reasonable, hold up legally, be efficient in terms of expenses going forward for the township, and that is what we're proposing tonight. Once again, thank you for your comments. Generally, we don't take questions, but if you have a yes, no,
I think I have a simple question for the solicitor.
Can you talk to the microphone?
Yes,
So?
sure. Didn't know I'd be allowed that. Yes, I just wonder if it's a relatively small change to the proposed ordinance, do we have to go back to the whole public meeting format? Which again, is only really adding a couple months to the time frame. It's not going to add a whole year.
If it's a material change, so there's somewhat of a judgment call there, but yeah, you're right, it's not necessarily gonna push you back a year. What happens is the board will direct us to make whatever changes they want us to make. It would be sent, that a copy of the new draft would be sent to the county planning commission or the planning department, as well as the township planning commission. And then after a 45-day period, we'd have a public hearing there, same public hearing like we had tonight, and it could be voted on. So essentially pushes it back 2 to 3 months, depending on how quickly the ordinance is rewritten.
And you wouldn't want to have a change that was felt to be minor and then run the risk of it being determined as a material change. It's not have gone through the process properly.
Right, we always default to the question to sending it back through just to be safe.
Okay, Mayor, I go to the next item on the agenda.
thank you.
Possible approval of hire part-time supplemental public works